People absolutely love these questions, sir. It's so many positive feedback on them, and they're looking forward to your next sermon as well. So, all right, Pastor Hovind, this question comes in from John. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I thought you said something.
Oh, that's it.
Okay, all right. Next question comes in from John, and John writes, "Thank you, Pastor Hovind, for answering my questions on the iridium layer and the unicorns mentioned in the Bible. I now have something that I can respond with when asked. My dad believes in the gap theory and the day-age theory, and those were some questions that I had trouble defending. I've also downloaded your gap theory book by you and Stephen Lowell. Since then, I can't wait to see my dad again. I do have another question. It's something my pastor said in one of his sermons that is confusing me. We were going over creation in Genesis and everything seemed okay until we got to the beginning of chapter 3 where Eve is tempted by the serpent. Now, I bought your longevity chart because seeing things on a timeline really helps make a lot of sense out of things. I've been told the book of Job was probably written shortly after the flood, and I also believe Genesis is written as history. So in my view, Genesis first, later a flood, sometime after the flood, Job was written, etc. My pastor said Genesis 3 is talking about Satan's second rebellion. So I asked him if he could clarify what he meant by his second rebellion in Genesis. His response was that Satan's first rebellion is recorded in Isaiah 14:12 passage, rebellion in heaven. And his second rebellion would be the Genesis 3 account, when he sought to destroy man. Well, I thought Genesis 3 accurately recorded the very first time Satan was found with iniquity and eventually got kicked out of heaven later on. So I guess my question is, did the Job 1:6-12 conversation between the Lord and Satan take place on earth or in heaven? Was Satan allowed to go back and forth from heaven to earth after the fall of man, or did he get kicked out of heaven and then try to deceive man in Genesis like my pastor was teaching? Please help me clarify this. Thank you so much for your time, Pastor Hovind. God bless, and I'm still daily praying for you, John."
Well, thank you for your prayers, John. I think God's going to get great glory in this. The idea that was Satan's second rebellion is all part of the gap theory. It is simply wrong. At the end of chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1, the very last verse, God looked at everything and it was very good. It would not be very good if the devil's running around as a bad guy. Satan did not fall from heaven until after the 6 days of creation. We know from the book of Ezekiel 28 that Lucifer was in Eden until he sinned. Well, Eden wasn't even made till day 6. Now, everything was fine at the end of day 6. Lucifer had not fallen. We know from Exodus 20:11 and Exodus 31:17 that God made everything in heaven and earth in 6 days. And that would include Lucifer and all the angels. They were all created probably day 1 or day 2, and I cover all that in my gap theory booklet. The Satan and God conversation in the book of Job had to take place after Job was born, obviously, because they're discussing Job. And in the book of Job, it refers to the flood. And so this is a time when Job lived long enough to have 10 grown children. They all died. And then he had 10 more children, at Job 42, and saw his great-great-grandchildren from his second family. So he had to be living several hundred years. So probably during the time of shortly after the flood, when they were still living to be 400, would be my guess on that. The Bible doesn't say. The book of Job does not refer to the law of God. So either Moses hadn't been born yet and given the law, or he lived someplace on the planet where they hadn't heard about it yet. But I think probably shortly after the flood, Job took place when they're still living to be 200 or 300 or 400 years old. But no, Satan's first rebellion was in Genesis chapter 3. It may have taken place in heaven and then kicked down to earth and rebelled and tried to pervert God's creation with Adam and Eve. The only clues we have there are Adam was 130 when Seth was born. We don't know the dates for Cain and Abel, but they were before Seth, and they were old enough to be on their own and out having their own job, and Cain killed Abel. Let's assume they're in their 20s or 30s. Adam and Eve could have been in the garden for 60 or 80 or 100 years before they even sinned, and then they got kicked out, and then Cain and Abel born, etc. So the idea of Satan's second rebellion is simply wrong. I used to believe that. That's part of the gap theory, and it's just simply not true. Okay? Thanks for the question.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Hovind. All right. I'm trying to find the next question. I think we're limited on time. Here we go. Here comes a question from Karen. Karen writes, we are really enjoying your questions and answers calls. Question number 1. We were just wondering, where do evolutionists think water came from? Could a Big Bang really make water?
Interesting question. There's a book out. It's an excellent book. It's a little technical. It's a couple guys in Littleton, Colorado. I don't have my notes here, but I refer to it in my book, What on Earth is About to Happen. I know one of the guys had a Cajun name like Boudreaux or something, and the other guy was Eric. Not much clues, but I don't remember their website or anything, but maybe somebody can look up my book, What on Earth is About to Happen, and go there to, I think it's in Appendix 1, or about the creation. But these guys did an excellent job of showing how that all these elements, everything started with water, according to Genesis chapter.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
And they show how from water you can make everything. How the evolutionists answer it, I don't know. I don't think they have a logical answer. They may have some kind of fairy tale. Well, it must have happened because here we are. But obviously water is an incredible molecule when you study it. You would think, since the two hydrogens attached to the oxygen, since they're sharing an electron, that would make the hydrogen slightly positively charged, since their electron is gone half the time to fill the final valence level on the oxygen molecule. So they should be on opposite ends. The water molecule should be a straight line. Hydrogen, oxygen, hydrogen in a straight line. They should repel each other to the opposite, but they don't. Instead, they form 104.6 degree angle or something like that. It sort of looks like Mickey Mouse with the big oxygen and the two ears being the hydrogen. It's a good thing they do that because oxygen and hydrogen, when they bond at a 104 or 5 degree angle, instead of 90 degrees, it does not let the water molecules lock in tight when they freeze together. They develop air spaces between them, which is why water expands 12% when it turns to ice, which makes it float instead of sink. Almost all other substances, as they freeze, they get smaller, and they would sink. If ice did that, the lakes would freeze from the bottom up, and everything would die, and they would never thaw out. Only the surface would thaw out of the northern lakes. So it's amazing, the design of water. Moody Science Films years ago, maybe 40 years ago, made a series of movies that were just fabulous. Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, Illinois. You can probably Google Moody. But they had some, they're real dated now, but they're still fabulous information. One was just about water. Oh, blow your mind. Fabulous movie. I'd highly recommend that one. But those guys in Colorado, I should write their name down here. But you go to my book, What on Earth's About to Happen, go to Appendix 1 where I reference that, and get that book if you want to really go down deep stuff on what can be made out of water and the just amazing features of water. It had to be just designed. I don't think an evolutionist can have a logical explanation. They say the Big Bang produced hydrogen. Okay, well, how do you get all the other elements? There are 92 elements. You can't get uranium out of hydrogen. And there's some real problems with that. There's been some good articles written on that about the various problems with developing the elements from hydrogen. Answersingenesis.org had some great articles on that, but just it's impossible. Institute for Creation Research, which is ICR.com or org in Dallas, Texas, they have some great stuff on that topic also. Okay, hope that helps.
All right, thank you, Pastor Hovind.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
All right, you want to just maybe wrap up some of these questions and we can pick them up tonight if you like?
Sure, yes, we'll just take it up tonight. Sounds great, brother.
Okay.
And let me know what I need to do with Thomas Keith and those guys when I call back.
Yes, sir, and I would suggest calling Coach Dave tomorrow. I think that's critical. Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, okay, we'll do it.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. All right, that was Pastor Hovind, and God bless every one of you.